was going to take this opportunity to just share a little bit about what's been happening in my life and Carmen's life. And really, it has been an extraordinary time for at least these last 7 months. And this is where I end up spending a lot of my time. Almost every morning is down here at the stream. And so I just wanted to show you a little bit of this place that I come basically on a daily basis to spend some time in the presence of God, to listen to His voice and to pray and just seek Him and the direction that He has for my life. And it was here on January 21st, Friday morning. I was sitting right here. That morning, of course, it was very cold, January 21st, but again, I come here, rain or shine, snow or sun. And so that day, as I sat here, I heard very clearly, He said that weekend, starting that Friday morning, He said that weekend, the fulfillment of a 25-year-old prophecy, a prophetic word that I heard in London, England, would begin to be fulfilled. Late in that gathering, a couple hours into it, was just about to end, this elderly gentleman got up to the mic and he says, I just have to tell you this incredible vision that I just had. He said he saw the whole map of the world. And as he looked at this map, there was this incredibly bright light coming out of one location. And he said he'd never been out of London, England, and he didn't know where that light was coming from. So he said the map started to zoom in, and he realized that it was on the Pacific Ocean side. And as he looked, he saw that the place where that light was coming out of was the Vancouver area. And that bright light, almost as bright as the sun, he said. And then all of a sudden, as he backed up from that picture, he said he saw this light start in Vancouver and go across the country. And once it went across the country, that light began to go around the world. And as I heard that word that day, I had such a strong sense that yes, that was the Lord speaking, and that I would participate or be able to see those types of events happen one day. So I've carried those words with me. And as I said, on that morning of January 21st, the Lord said to me, this weekend is going to begin the fulfillment of that word. Well, what happened that weekend? That Saturday, I went to this big freedom rally in Vancouver. Thousands of people. It was the largest one that I'm aware of in the Vancouver area. Several thousand people there. Howard Olson got to go up and give this powerful word. This is a public gathering, but yet so many people spoke about the power of God and our need to know who God is in that place. The next morning, I went to 232nd exit and stood there as a trucker, 7 in the morning. Hundreds of us gathered at that overpass, and of course, many other overpasses. And we celebrated as the truckers left Vancouver that day to head to Ottawa. And I knew that this was going to be a part of this move that was happening. I knew it wasn't the whole story, but I knew that this truckers going, this convoy, was going to be a part of God's plan for what was moving forward. Well, that day I came back here. I was sitting here again, just so thankful for what was happening. And then I was called to go to this church gathering called Ecclesia 12. And as I went there, this gentleman, Barry Wunsch, got up to speak. And he grabbed a spike and held it up. And he said how that spike was connected to 50 spikes that went in across the United States and part of 12 spikes that were brought up to Canada. And that this was one of those spikes. And that he said God had called him out of Red Deer, Alberta, to bring that spike to the Lower Mainland to put it in that day. And sure enough, that spike went in the ground. The next morning I heard about it, and God said, go to that spike. I didn't know where it was. It was 4 inches underground somewhere in Fort Langley, and I just started to drive because I knew God had called me to go to that spike. I ended up driving there. I spoke to Howard Olson, who at that point we'd never spoken before. He pointed me in a general direction, and as I got to Derby Reach Park, I just parked at one place, got out of my car, got back in, drove down to another place, got out, and as I walked, all of a sudden God said to me, there it is. Just was grass. I got on my knees, began to dig down, and sure enough, I touched the head of that spike. Then he said, build an altar of 12 stones here and now, which I did. Several days later, 2 weeks later, to almost to the day, 3 a.m. Sunday morning, the Lord said to me, go to Ottawa. Within 24 hours, me and my daughter jumped in the car to drive across, and he said, I want you to drive a spike behind the Parliament buildings. He told me that on the way, where it would be, sure enough, I see the train tracks, pull over, there is the spike sitting right there, in case I was wondering if any of this was, if I was hearing properly. But there was that spike placed right there. We took that, we went to Ottawa. I took 12 stones out of this stream that created a 70-pound backpack that I brought with us. We ended up just across the Ottawa River, behind the Parliament building in Quebec. And as I began to set up to put the spike in the ground there, I started to talk about the stones that I brought out of this stream. And as I was showing the stones, Jessica, who was with me and filming, said, Dad, gold is appearing on the stones. And as I looked, I could see gold appearing. I put that stone down, I grabbed another stone, and there it was appearing again. At that point, I went to put the spike in the ground. I grabbed a bigger rock to hit it, the spike into the ground. And now I see gold appearing on the head of the spike. And I look at the stone and I realize gold is appearing. And as I held that to the camera, you could literally see gold beginning to appear on the stone. And obviously very aware that God was at work. I didn't know why or what I was doing, except God had called me to do these things, and I did it. We then involved in a 7-day Jericho march, another big story. We stayed in Ottawa for 9 days. The most incredibly powerful, loving, caring event. I was just thrilled to be a part of that. Came back on the way back, again, 4,400 kilometers, 44-hour drive back. Again, the Lord says to me, I have another spike for you on the drive back, and I want you to put it at the Peace Arch border. Driving back, we pull over, there it is, another spike hand placed in the exact location. This time Jessica got out of the car and picked up the spike. And we went to Peace Arch, put it right on the border, 1 foot in USA, 1 foot in Canada, drove the spike in the ground right on this side of the ocean, and built an altar of 12 stones there. Well, this has continued to happen as the Lord then called us to drive a bunch of spikes across the Lower Mainland, all the way from Hope Slide into Hope. Then we went to YVR and put a spike in the ground there. We went to the Lions Gate Bridge because of the activity under that bridge and across that bridge, and did the same thing. Then we went up to the mountain and in another location where we put an altar, built an altar of 12 stones. Well, as that has all happened, I was sitting here about a week ago, early in the morning, and now God said to me, I want you to drive from coast to coast across this country. I want you to go to the furthest point east that you can go. And he said to me, go to a place called Cape Spear. Of course, I ended up typing that into a map later. That is the most eastern point of North America, just east of St. John's, Newfoundland. And he said, I want you to go there, and I want you to also go to Point Pelee, which is the most southern point, the very tip that comes down into Lake Erie, that is surrounded by the United States, and this point that comes right down into this area. And he said, I want you to go there as well. And as I'm preparing to go, and Carmen's preparing to go with me on this incredible journey, it's going to be about 16,000 kilometers there and back. So as I was preparing, then the Lord said to me, I want you to bring 12 stones from the lighthouse in Vancouver at Lighthouse Park. I want you to go there and take 12 stones out of the Pacific Ocean. Why under the lighthouse? He said, because I want the way of bringing light across this country, that these stones which have remained under this lighthouse, he said, take those 12 stones, drive across the country, and when you arrive there, build an altar of 12 stones from the Pacific, now on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean. And when you leave, take 12 stones from under the lighthouse in Cape Spear and bring those across the nation to build back here on the edge of the Pacific Ocean. So we have this incredible journey. We're probably leaving September 6th, Tuesday, to begin this journey. We're inviting people to call us, to invite us to stop in cities on the way. God is wanting us to come and to tear down demonic activity over each city, over each region, and to also proclaim the kingdom of God, to be a part of that. So that's the journey we're on. And I'm inviting people who live, be it in Calgary, Winnipeg, Montreal, Moncton, whatever that is, all across this nation. If God is calling on your heart to have us stop in on our journey, to have us participate in bringing this light, these stones, this altar from the Lighthouse of Vancouver all the way to point to Cape Spear, and then another journey all the way to the most southern tip, please let me know. I have actually set up a new email. Out of all this stuff with the spikes, a name was given to me, Mike the Spike. So I have a new email address called mikethespike2022@gmail.com. So you can connect with me there, or also you can connect on Telegram. And on this Telegram, you just have to type in decree, D-E-C-R-E-E, decree across Canada into Telegram. And that's where many people are sending me messages where I'll be giving highlights of this trip as we go. Carmen and I would appreciate your prayers. And we just want to inform you of all that's going to be happening in this month to follow us going. I have no idea how long this whole trip is going to be, except that I know that God has called us to do this. Thank you for listening, and anything that you want to know, again, please send me a message. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.